Hey, what's up everyone, TJ here. In this video, I'm reviewing the Salomon 6-stick in collaboration with Snowboard Mag. Let's get into it. All right, real quick for your reference, before I jump into the tech you're gonna find in this snowboard, I'm 5'10", I weigh around 155 pounds, and I rode this one in size 156. Now the 6-stick is part of Salomon's HPS series, which is their more creatively shaped line of snowboards, and the 6-stick is designed to be a freestyle powder board. I'd say it's like an all-mountain freestyle focused board on the Salomon lineup. You're gonna find a tapered twin design in this snowboard. So between the contact points, you're gonna find a centered stance with a directional outline. So you're gonna have more nose outside these front contact points, as well as a 10mm taper. So the tail of the snowboard is 10mm narrower than the nose. You have less tail outside the rear contact points as well, so that's basically going to give this board a little bit more surface area up front and give it a little bit of an advantage in softer snow conditions. It does run a camber dominant profile as well. You're going to find Salomon's rock out camber. So under your feet, you're going to find some decent positive camber zones that lead into a flat section between the feet, and that actually creates an overall camber zone through the main body of the snowboard, giving it some nice stability and energy, with reverse camber in the tail and in the nose outside your feet there to make the board a little bit more manageable and forgiving, and also provide an additional benefit in soft snow. Other than that, you're going to find their Popster core profiling, so that's just a milling of the core to dial in the flex the way that they want this board to feel, as well as a sintered base with a stone ground finish. So that's a higher end, denser base material that's known to be tougher and faster versus an extruded base. You do want to wax it regularly to maintain a nice consistent glide throughout the season and get that optimal feel out of this snowboard, but that stone ground finish is nice, adding a little bit of structure to the base to make it even faster. And that's going to be it for a quick tech breakdown on this one. Let's dive into how this snowboard feels out on the mountain. All right, let's start off talking about the flex you're gonna find in this snowboard. And I found that it sits pretty solidly in the middle of the road, has a nice versatile mid flex for exploring the resort, comes through with some good stability, but actually still has a nice pressable feel as well. I think mainly thanks to that reverse camber in the tips does give this board a little bit more pressability, and it does feel slightly stiffer torsionally because of that as well. But I do think it does have a very fun freestyle feel overall, both in the park and just cruising around for butters and flat tricks. It gives up presses very comfortably. You do get a little bit more leverage in the nose just because you have more board material to lean into up there, so it's a little bit easier, but honestly it's a lot of fun for playing around on side hits, flat parts of the mountain, rollers, any chance that you get. If you enjoy that style of riding, I think you're going to have a lot of fun on the 6-stick. It's not particularly catchy. I think that reverse camber does mellow things out a little bit as well and make it more forgiving, and just feels nice if you're trying to lean into a press. And I don't think that that comes at the expense of pop and energy. This board does hold and load tension pretty well through that main camber body of the snowboard. It gives up some nice snap, and I don't think that's an area that you're gonna find this board is lacking. And you know, while I was testing this board, I spent a good amount of time in the terrain park, and I feel like the versatility that you find around the resort translates very well into the terrain park and riding with a more freestyle approach as well. If you enjoy hitting jibs, this board has a very comfortable feel. It's pressable, feels good on the approach, but it still has this ability to step up to larger features and work on jump progression as well. I think stepping up to some pretty big jumps, you're gonna find a good amount of stability in this snowboard, and it's not really gonna be a problem for you. The only thing I would say when it comes to proper park laps is maybe pay attention to that slightly longer nose so you're not clipping up, particularly on rail features. And it does have a slightly different feel switch. You do notice that 10mm of taper. It's not huge, but it is a little bit noticeable. Something you'll get used to if you spend a lot of time on this board, but worth calling out. I also want to talk about the carving experience you're going to find in this snowboard and just how this thing feels as you're out there exploring and cruising around the resort. So at size 156, you're going to find a 25.9 centimeter waist. So it does have a little bit of extra width to it. It's going to make more aggressive carves with steeper edge angles a little bit more accessible and mitigate that heel and toe drag a little bit, which is nice. But the two biggest highlights for me are how smooth this board feels, just all around, from initiating a turn, driving through the carve, smoothing out bumpier variable snow conditions. It does have a nice, damp, just smooth feel to it, and it's also very locked in. This board holds a great edge, has a very confident feel underfoot. And I did let this thing loose, opened it up to some high speeds, bombed some hills, and it maintains that confident feel. I mean, you will find a little bit of chatter in the nose if you really do try to bomb some hills. I mean, and like go with a more full-on free ride approach. You could find the limits of it, but I don't really think this is a board that's gonna hold you back out there. It's a pleasure to carve and has a great feel on the groomers and enough stability to explore around the alpine and go off-piste as well. This thing feels solid underfoot. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to get this board out on a proper deep day for a powder test, but I do plan to do that later this season, so make sure you're subscribed if you want to hear about this board in soft snow. I do want to quickly touch on that though, so just to recap, you're going to find that directional outline, the 10 mils of taper, the reverse camber in the nose and the tail, as well as that slight bit of extra width. So all that's going to work together to enhance the soft snow experience. I think this board would float pretty well, definitely better than your typical true twin or like slightly directional twin. And you know, if you do take it out on like a proper bottomless day, you can always set the stance back to get a little bit more float and keep the nose up a little bit more easily. So, you know, I think this board would work really well as like a one board quiver. If you're looking for a board you can take out any day, any condition, and you know that you're gonna have a good time, I think the 6-stick hits that mark on the head pretty well. Overall, I think this board's going to be best suited for riders that have a little bit of experience under their belt with the stability and precision you're going to find in this thing, as well as that slightly directional design. It's not going to be a beginner board, but if you're like a more intermediate and up rider, or even a very experienced rider, I think you'd have a great time on this snowboard. And the two biggest standouts for me with the 6-stick are just how smooth the board feels all around, as well as the freestyle versatility you're going to find in this thing while still maintaining a relatively approachable, manageable feel. So if you're looking for something very versatile, want something you can take out any day, consider the Salomon 6-stick. I'm gonna have this board linked down below in the description if you want to read more about it, as well as a link to the latest issue of Snowboard Mag. So please make sure to go check that out. I appreciate you guys. Let me know if you've had a chance to ride this thing, what you think about it down in the comments as well. Drop a like if you got some value. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. We'll see you in a new one next time.